We are now living in a bizarre new America where the rule of law no longer applies and illegal immigrants have the same rights as citizens. Get this, illegal immigrants in California can now practice law thanks to new legislation aimed at giving them more rights. Think about that for a second. People that are willfully breaking the law are now legally permitted to practice law. I don't even want to think about the legal mess that's going to be created if a legal citizen lawyer loses a case to an illegal immigrant lawyer, or for an illegal immigrant lawyer only licensed in California has to challenge a case in federal court. This isn't some liberal agenda only happening in California either. There are at least 2 other states, New York and Florida, where illegal immigrants are fighting for the same privilege. Here's the other thing. You have to love how California gets to do pretty much whatever it wants when it comes to immigration reform, since the White House seems to agree, but Arizona was sued by the federal government for passing SB 1070 that was supposed to help solve its illegal problem. Here to share a legal perspective on this is Jordan Sekulow, the Executive Director of the American Center for Law and Justice. All right, so this all stems from the case of Sergio Garcia, who is an illegal immigrant who went to law school and passed the bar. What are we going to have here? Just armies of illegal immigrants filing motions and messing up the system?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what's going to happen now, because what we saw was the Obama administration, in a move that was shocking to Sergio Garcia in light of their other immigration moves, actually opposed. They filed a brief and went to court in California's Supreme Court, which was going to rule, by the way, it looked like from all indications while this case was ongoing, that unless the state changed the law, he did not have a right to practice law. He could not be a member of the bar, even though he passed the bar. It wasn't about his deportation. It was just, could he join the bar? And the Supreme Court in California, very liberal, and they still look like all the justices agreed that this man should not be eligible for the bar. But the Obama administration, who was opposing that during the case, then said to the judges, the justices of the Supreme Court of California, that if there was a state law allowing it, that may be okay. Now, that's exactly what California did.
Hold on, Jordan. So in the case of Arizona, a state law was not okay because it was related to immigration. Right. But in California, it is okay to have a state law related to immigration.
And it's the exact same law they're relying on. It's Public Law 104-208. It's the Illegal Immigration Reform, I'm reading it, and Immigrant Responsibility Act of 1996, which says you can't do more prohibitions than the federal government has. You can do less, though. You can expand rights, but you can't limit rights. So they're using the same law here. Now, this is the problem, though, and a lot of law professors pointed this out from both sides of the aisle. A law firm can't legally hire Sergio Garcia, so he'll have to practice alone. If during a state case in California, he then has to, let's say a federal matter comes up, and this happens all the time. I was talking to one of my friends, a criminal law attorney, a defense attorney. This happens all the time in defense cases, criminal defense cases, where some issue, some evidence issue has to go to federal court. Well, he's not going to be allowed in federal court. But what if you're a California citizen legal, and you've hired him, and what is he going to have a warning sign on his wall that says, by the way, I can't really fully operate? So in a sense, this is California trying to push ahead, which Governor Jerry Brown admitted, where the government of the United States has not gone. And so you cannot really practice law, only be admitted in a state and not be able to go to federal court. That's not, you couldn't even be, you wouldn't be meeting the standard of ethics for lawyers, which means you've got to zealously represent your client, which means you better be able to go to federal court. And even if he is allowed to join the California bar, as many law professors have pointed out, it would be illegal for him to be hired. It would be illegal for him to be in those courtrooms, technically. He could be detained just for being an illegal.
Yeah, but they're not going to do that in California.
Of course they won't do that in California. What we do know guys like him can do is they could defend themselves in an immigration hearing if he gets picked up. They could file motions on behalf of other people. And I think some Californians might wake up to a day where, I don't know, maybe they wronged their housekeeper or landscaper, or they own a business or a restaurant. Maybe their employees are upset at them and they happen to be illegal. It turns out they've got some friends who are also illegal and lawyers. You might find yourself squaring off in court against an illegal. And this is why we have to watch very carefully. The Supreme Court still gets to say the final judgment, but they basically said in court if there was a state law that allowed it as a state court, they're not going to stop it. And then will the Obama administration step in and say, no, we're not going to have, if you can keep your California bar license, whatever, but that you're not going to be allowed into federal court. But like you said, Andrew, that's the next case. If you under the Constitution, if you've been allowed and you've gone through the process and you've been granted bar membership, you've passed all of the tests, you've done all the education, you've got your legal certification as a bar member, can you then be not allowed into a federal court because you're here illegally? And I do want to point out, here's where it will get interesting. International lawyers can certainly, if they're qualified, take the bar exam in the United States and
but you got to be here legally to do that.
Right, you got to be here legally. But this is how they push the ball forward. And Governor Brown has been very honest about that. And how we talk about kind of in law school, you look back at what California does, move ahead 10, 15 years, and it's exactly where the country is.
Well,
so where they look extreme, this is you could see how this would expand through New York and Florida where the cases are coming next.
Brown vetoed a bill that would have allowed illegal immigrants to serve on juries. But if they could be lawyers, what would stop them from being judges and, in the worst case, police officers?
Well, that's what makes no sense. You, as a lawyer, you are an officer of the court. You take an oath to not only uphold the law, but to defend or to prosecute, depending on what side of the aisle you're on in that case. So you are actually, by joining the bar, becoming a law enforcement official. You are an officer of the court. And so, again, it would seem like an equal protection issue that Sergio Garcia could file, that if he can be a lawyer, why can't he be a judge? And, of course, then why couldn't he be a citizen or a citizen of the United States? How can he get all of these rights without being a citizen?
This is a frightening...
It's a setup case.
We don't really have the rule of law, do we, at this point? We have the rule of men. We have the rule of radical governments. I mean, I'm a states' rights guy, but I mean, this is not something, a state cannot just grant these things. Citizenship's got to come from the federal government. Because what happens next? I mean, do we start allowing a state like California to be an inbound sanctuary state, then allow those people to just use California as a port of entry and then sue other states for entry?
Well, that's exactly another problem. You know, there's a thing, it's called pro hoc v. You get, if one of his clients also had to be defended, let's say in Arizona, it would be very easy for a normal California lawyer to be admitted for the day or the week for the specific case to argue in Arizona court. What happens here? You see how this sets this precedent up where, as Sergio Garcia said, this battle, whether he wins or loses in court, and I think he will now win in court, at state court level, will the Obama administration challenge it federally? I hope they do. They were challenging it here, though they are the ones that opened the door for California doing this. And then what happens to states like Arizona, Nevada, and others where if he had a client or he needs to go to federal court, this is how they start the process of getting right back to the main issue, which is we should be citizens. He wouldn't qualify under the DREAM Act, so he wouldn't qualify under even the way it was implemented without congressional authority. So this is a new way of trying to get at citizenship. How can you grant me all these rights and then still deny me U.S. citizenship?
Well,
that's really what this is about.
What you'll have happen is you'll have thousands of illegal immigrants going to law school, and when the DREAM Act passes, these will be the people that start filing the motions to reduce the time to citizenship, to move faster on getting these people benefits, getting them taxpayer-funded services. That's what these people will do, and then they'll get their citizenship in the end somehow. I mean, this is going to be a mess if this is allowed to stand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you look at this 1996 law, and what it did was put restrictions on making it harder for illegal immigrants, making tougher immigration laws, because that's Congress's role. And that's what they used against Arizona. They said, you can't do it because we're supposed to do it, and you're trying to make it tougher than federal law. We disagreed with that, but the Supreme Court agreed with the federal government there. But what the law doesn't do is say you can it doesn't prohibit states from treating illegal immigrants better. So that's why you have the sanctuary cities issue and all of those cases. But this goes a step further. This is giving someone, making them an officer, a legal officer of the court. You know, he takes that oath, like we've all taken that are lawyers, and he is illegally there taking the oath. It makes no sense. It doesn't make logical sense. It seems like what he's doing is actually committing a crime. Seems like he would be being fraudulent by even taking that oath, knowing that he's here illegally.
I just keep saying it. We don't really have the rule of law. We just don't. When we get to the point where illegal immigrants are so emboldened that they can walk into a court of law and practice it, I just do not see a positive future, Jordan. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.